Today we're going to be practicing the biscuit method of mixing in order to make a biscuit, which is a quick bread. Now, quick breads are things like cornbread and muffins or biscuits, and they're leavened by chemical leaveners such as baking soda and baking powder. A leavener is something that gives rise to a product. This is the mise en place for the biscuit. The main thing to remember here is that the liquid and the fat need to be cold. Start by sifting the dry ingredients together to remove any lumps of baking powder or salt. The next step is to add the fat. The recipe calls for shortening, but personally I like the flavor of butter, so that's what I'm going to use. Shortening usually renders a flakier biscuit, and butter has more moisture in it, therefore will make a softer biscuit. Press the butter and flour between your fingers to make pea-sized bits of fat. These pea-sized bits will help aid in flakiness of the biscuit. Make a well in the center of the dry ingredients and pour in all of the milk at once. Gently bring the mixture together with the spatula, and remember, don't overmix because we do not want to develop gluten. We want a very soft biscuit. Once the biscuit dough comes together, use some extra flour or bench flour on the table and dump out all of the biscuit dough onto it. The dough is going to be really wet, so you do need a good amount of flour to keep it from sticking to the table and to your hands. Biscuits require a little bit of gluten, but not too much. So we're going to knead the dough 6 times by folding and turning it. But after 6, you need to stop because over kneading will develop too much gluten that could make it tough. And we want something that's soft and flaky and very tender. Once the kneading process is finished, we're going to pat the biscuits out to about a 1/2 inch thick. You can do thinner, you can do thicker, it's completely up to you. When you insert the biscuit cutter, dust it in some flour so that it doesn't stick to the dough, and then push straight down. When you hit the table, then you give a small turn to release it from the other dough and from the table. If you twist while you're pushing down, you may eliminate some of those flaky layers that won't be able to rise because you've twisted. When re-rolling the dough, dust the flour off, press it together, and avoid kneading it too much. Over manipulation will develop gluten, and the re-rolled biscuits will be tougher than your first batch will. Once you're finished re-rolling all the dough, but you still have a little bit of extra dough left, just shape it into the biscuit if it's not large enough to cut out, and bake it anyway. It'll taste good, it just won't look perfect. One of the last things to do before we bake is to use your finger to make an indentation in the center of the biscuit. This will help it rise evenly. Use a bench scraper to clean the table. The last thing that needs to be done is brushing the tops of the biscuits with milk or cream. This will help them brown. Bake the biscuits at 425 until golden brown. It takes approximately 15 minutes.